November 20th, 1943. Red Beach 2, Batio Island, Tarawa Atoll. The first light of dawn revealed a shoreline already scarred by naval bombardment, but what happened next was unlike anything Japanese defenders had ever prepared for. As the landing craft grounded in the surf and ramps clattered down, the sand erupted in perfectly spaced bursts, walking methodically toward the concealed bunkers. The defenders, trained to expect massed rifle fire, stared in disbelief through narrow slits in their fortifications. This was not the ragged volley they had studied in manuals. Each impact came with mechanical precision, marching directly toward them as though guided by an unseen hand. Marine First Lieutenant William Dean Hawkins crawled forward, hugging the ground, a strange, oversized weapon cradled against his chest. The Japanese had been told that Americans relied on individual marksmanship, that their soldiers lacked the spiritual ferocity to withstand bayonet charges. But Hawkins carried something that defied doctrine. The Browning automatic rifle, known simply as the Bar, was about to prove that courage alone could not stand against firepower refined by industry. The Bar weighed 19 pounds without its magazine, yet Hawkins moved with practiced efficiency, his platoon following close behind. With a pull of the trigger, the weapon spat 30-06 rounds at a rate that seemed impossible for a single man to sustain. 3 seconds were all it took to empty the 20-round magazine on its highest setting, and those 3 seconds shattered more than the palm log defenses of Batio. They shattered an entire philosophy of war. The Imperial Japanese Army had built its doctrine on the supremacy of willpower, the idea that spiritual strength could overcome material disadvantage. At Tarawa, that belief was dying one burst at a time. As Hawkins advanced, his platoon used concentrated bar fire to silence 3 fortified positions in less than 20 minutes. Smoke curled from shattered embrasures, and the defenders who had sworn to fight to the death were silenced before they could even launch a bayonet charge. What Japanese soldiers encountered that morning was not just a weapon, but the embodiment of a new age, the democratization of firepower. Where once heavy machine guns required dedicated crews, the Bar placed battlefield dominance in the hands of every rifle squad. This collision of ideologies, samurai tradition against industrial modernity, defined the Pacific War. Japanese officers clung to tactics rooted in the early 20th century, where honor and bayonets won the day. Their infantry manual of 1909 devoted pages to spiritual resolve and only paragraphs to automatic fire. In contrast, American doctrine evolved to equip ordinary infantrymen with weapons that multiplied their killing power. The result was not only a tactical advantage, but a complete redefinition of combat. The Marines pressing inland at Tarawa carried this lesson forward with every step. For the Japanese hidden in their bunkers, each burst of bar fire announced a new and terrible reality. Courage could no longer close the distance. Spirit could not deflect a storm of lead. The age of industrialized war had arrived on the sands of Batio. August 21st, 1942. The banks of the Ilu River on Guadalcanal glistened in the moonlight as Colonel Keanu Ikiki led nearly 1,000 men in a night assault against American positions. His soldiers, veterans of victories in China, expected to overrun the Marines in brutal hand-to-hand fighting. They carried bayonets fixed, voices raised in shouts meant to unnerve an enemy they believed to be weak and undisciplined. What they met instead was a wall of fire unlike anything they had encountered before. From foxholes dug hastily into the dark soil, Marines unleashed overlapping bursts that stitched the jungle with deadly precision. The Japanese advanced in waves, confident that their spiritual superiority would carry them through, but each charge dissolved under the thunder of automatic weapons. Among the machine guns that night, the steady staccato of multiple bars blended into a terrifying rhythm. The Marines had been trained to fire in short bursts, shifting their aim to sweep entire fields of fire. Japanese soldiers rushing toward the muzzle flashes found only empty ground, as the bar gunners had already shifted position, leaving the attackers exposed. By dawn, Ikiki's proud battalion was shattered. From nearly 917 men, only a fraction survived to retreat into the jungle. The lesson was clear and devastating. The courage of individual soldiers, no matter how absolute, could not breach the storm generated by coordinated automatic fire. Japanese tactics, rooted in bayonet charges and tightly held formations, were rendered obsolete in a single night of carnage. The numbers alone told the story. A Japanese rifle squad of 13 men, each armed with bolt-action Arisaka rifles, could fire perhaps 60 aimed shots in a minute. A Marine squad equipped with 3 bars could unleash more than twice that volume of fire in the first seconds of combat. The mathematics of survival had changed forever, and the Imperial Army had no answer. As the war dragged on, Japanese defenders turned increasingly to underground fortifications, hoping to negate American firepower with stone and earth. By late 1943, entire cave networks crisscrossed island defenses. These positions were designed to be impregnable, forcing attackers into desperate close-range fighting. Yet the bar once again rewrote the script. Marines developed a brutal but effective method. Position a gunner at an oblique angle, 25 yards from the cave mouth, and pour an entire magazine inside in a looping figure 8. The ricocheting rounds turned chambers into death traps. Survivors described the effect as a hornet's nest unleashed in darkness, where bullets caromed off walls, ceilings, and floors in unpredictable lethal arcs. For the men inside, resistance was over before they even glimpsed the enemy. This was more than the defeat of soldiers, it was the unraveling of an entire military philosophy. The Bushido-inspired belief that determination could withstand firepower collapsed under the weight of industrial production. For every Japanese weapon painstakingly crafted, America produced hundreds. For every squad that relied on willpower, the Marines carried weapons designed to multiply the strength of ordinary men. June 15, 1944. Saipan. The Marines came ashore under the blazing Pacific sun, their landing craft crunching against coral reefs as Japanese artillery thundered from hidden ridges. Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saito commanded more than 30,000 defenders who had transformed the island into a fortress of concrete bunkers, interlocking fields of fire, and deep caves carved into coral limestone. It was supposed to be impregnable. Yet what unfolded on Saipan revealed just how decisively American doctrine had evolved around the Browning automatic rifle. By this stage of the war, every Marine rifle company had reorganized to maximize bar strength. Officially, squads carried one for every 4 men. Unofficially, battlefield scrounging meant some carried 5 or 6. Infantry units had become roving platforms of mobile automatic firepower, capable of suppressing enemy positions the moment contact was made. The Japanese attempted to hold Purple Heart Ridge, a labyrinth of caves and mutually supporting machine gun nests. Here, bravery alone was useless. For every position that fell silent, another opened up. Yet bar gunners advanced deliberately, firing controlled bursts that swept across entrances until silence replaced resistance. When one team faltered under heavy fire, another shifted forward, overlapping arcs in a pattern drilled endlessly in training. Fire became the language of maneuver, and the battlefield was rewritten in tracers and smoke. Individual acts of heroism emerged amid this industrial storm. Private First Class Harold Agerholm, though not assigned as a barman, carried wounded Marines out of exposed fields, time and again braving fire so that automatic rifle teams could maintain their pressure. He did not survive, but his sacrifice embodied the human cost that allowed the doctrine to succeed. The scale of ammunition expenditure was staggering. In 3 weeks of fighting on Saipan, the 2nd Marine Division alone fired 8.7 million rounds of .306 ammunition, much of it through bars. Against this torrent, Japanese defenders discovered that even carefully prepared strongholds offered no guarantee of survival. The very walls that shielded them became killing chambers once bullets ricocheted inside. For the Japanese soldier trained since youth in the spirit of Bushido, the experience was shattering. Their manuals had promised that determination could conquer material inferiority. Yet no warrior spirit could endure the endless thunder of American automatic rifles. Each burst reminded them that their weapons, produced in workshops by skilled craftsmen, were too few and too fragile to withstand industrial war. Saipan was not just another island captured. It was proof that Japanese tactical thinking had collapsed against an enemy who measured victory not in moments of valor, but in the steady rhythm of factories producing weapons faster than they could be destroyed. By the time the island fell, the Japanese high command understood the grim truth. For every man they sent to die, America could send bullets in the thousands. February 19, 1945. Iwo Jima. The black sands of the island clung to boots and stalled vehicles as the first waves of Marines struggled ashore under a storm of artillery and mortars. General Tadamichi Kuribayashi had prepared his garrison of more than 20,000 men with months of labor, digging tunnels and chambers that stretched for miles beneath the volcanic rock. Every cave was connected, every bunker interlocked, a defense designed to bleed the invader dry. It was the ultimate evolution of Japanese straightforward warfare. Yet even here, the bar proved decisive. By now, the weapon was no longer just a support piece. It had become the spearhead of American assault doctrine. Bar up front was the order, with automatic riflemen leading squads into the maelstrom. Their role was simple but deadly. Pour suppressive fire the instant an enemy muzzle flashed, giving riflemen the chance to maneuver. The rhythm of advance was measured in bursts, reloads, and the shifting thunder of overlapping fields of fire. Marines who had once regarded the bar as heavy and cumbersome now saw it as indispensable. Its 19-pound frame delivered freedom of movement that crew-served weapons could not, and its firepower allowed a squad to punch above its weight. In the labyrinth of Iwo Jima, this meant survival. Caves that might have taken hours of bloody close combat were sealed in minutes by a gunner sweeping a figure 8 across the entrance before white phosphorus grenades marked the position as neutralized. It was on this island that Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone, already a legend from Guadalcanal, returned to combat. He led his men forward with the same relentless determination that had once earned him the Medal of Honor. This time, however, he did not survive. Mortar fire claimed him on the first day of battle, a reminder that even heroes were not invincible. Yet the system he embodied lived on, automatic rifle teams advancing methodically, overwhelming defenders through sheer fire discipline. Kuribayashi's troops fought with grim resolve, refusing to surrender even as the walls closed in. But the math was against them. In 36 days, Marines fired an estimated 12 million rounds of small arms ammunition. Entire caves collapsed under concentrated fire, their defenders entombed within. Out of the original garrison, only 1,000 were taken alive. The rest perished, many without ever seeing the faces of the men who killed them. The Japanese had studied previous battles, adjusted their tactics, and prepared meticulously for this confrontation. Yet adaptation could not close the gulf between their dwindling arsenals and America's industrial surge. Each bar in the hands of a Marine was backed by an assembly line thousands of miles away, churning out replacements faster than losses could be counted. Against this reality, the defenders' valor became another tragic offering to an enemy who measured victory in production quotas and logistical flows. On Iwo Jima, the bar was more than a rifle. It was the sound of inevitability echoing through tunnels, a rolling thunder that no amount of courage could silence. April 1st, 1945. Okinawa. The largest amphibious invasion of the Pacific War unfolded beneath gray skies as American troops poured ashore, facing a Japanese garrison of more than 130,000 men. This was the last great gamble of the empire, the culmination of every lesson drawn from years of desperate defense. They had dug deep into hillsides, constructed intricate cave systems, and placed their faith in the rugged terrain of the Shuri Line. But the Americans brought with them not only overwhelming naval and aerial support, but also the perfected doctrine of automatic firepower. By this time, the bar was everywhere. Units ignored official allotments and armed themselves as heavily as possible, some carrying one automatic rifle for every 2 or 3 soldiers. Squads became miniature arsenals, capable of saturating enemy positions with fire the instant they were located. The men had learned through bitter fighting that survival hinged on firepower, and the bar was their lifeline. Colonel Hiromichi Yahara, one of the few senior Japanese officers to survive the battle, later described the hopelessness of the struggle. He recalled how entire strongpoints, manned by soldiers prepared to fight to the death, collapsed under relentless bursts of firepower. The Shuri line, considered impregnable, did not fall to sudden breakthroughs, but to a grinding process in which caves and bunkers were reduced one by one. Marines and soldiers advanced methodically, bars at the 4 white phosphorus grenades marking each silenced position. The numbers from Okinawa revealed the sheer scale of American industrial might. Over 82 days, U.S. forces fired an estimated 60 million rounds of small arms ammunition. The 24th Corps alone accounted for 25 million, much of it delivered through bars and other automatic weapons. Against this torrent, Japanese defenders often possessed little more than 100 rounds per man for the entire battle. Their courage was immense, but their magazines were empty long before the Americans slowed their pace. Psychologically, the sound of the bar became a weapon in its own right. Veterans described the deep, rolling thud as distinct from other automatic fire. It carried across ridges and through valleys, a reminder that the Americans were not only advancing, but doing so with mobile firepower that hunted defenders in their hiding places. For soldiers accustomed to charging into close combat, the experience was demoralizing. They found themselves pinned, suffocated by an enemy who could afford to expend bullets as if they were limitless. By the end, Okinawa had cost Japan over 100,000 dead. Entire regiments ceased to exist. American losses were heavy too, but the disparity revealed the underlying truth. No matter how fierce the defense, industrial firepower dictated the outcome. The bar had become not just a weapon of war, but a symbol of inevitability. Each burst represented a society that had transformed factories into arsenals, outproducing and outlasting its enemy at every turn. With Okinawa secured, the Pacific campaign neared its end. Japan's leaders could no longer deny what every soldier in the caves had already learned. The age of spirit had been buried beneath the thunder of the automatic rifle.